a verbal or written question? Verbal question for Dr. Badawi, and please say who you are and what your major is.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Jesse, and I'm a civil engineer. My question is towards, I forget your name, I'm sorry.
Dr. Badawi.
Yes, sir, ma'am. Some qualities that a prophet has, back in the day was that when they prophesied something, was that it might actually come true. If not, they were either, stoned, killed, or not listened to. And according to the hadith of Bukhari, there's a situation where some men come to Muhammad and they ask him one question, basically, and they ask him, give us 3 signs. And I forgot the first one, but I know the second one is that in heaven, the meal that they will eat will be fish liver.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Oh, yes, that the men came to ask him a question, and when he replied back about the 3 prophecies or 3 signs of why he was a prophet, I forgot the first claim that he said, but the second one was that in heaven there will be fish liver, and that's what they will eat. But then for the third claim that he stated was that in a sexual situation of intercourse, when the female ejaculates, first the baby will come out to be male, or if the male ejaculates first, that the baby will come out female. And according to biologists and human studies, that's not really what happens in intercourse and how baby are made. Yes.
Well, first of all, as you said, this is in Bukhari, this is not in the Quran itself. However, there are much misunderstanding of this. Because actually what you did not mention about that hadith is that a Jewish person actually asked him for this, and actually he believed in him because he knew that this information were true from his perspective. Number 2, the other thing about the child that you mentioned about the sex of the child is a different hadith, so it should not be mixed with that because it may make things confusing. This was a totally separate hadith, and actually it is fully scientific, because the original word ala does not mean whoever ejaculates first. This is a mistaken translation. The text of the Quran used the identical term. Ala means to be supreme, to be high, to dominate. And in fact, if you look at genetics, it is actually the sperm, the nature or the type of the sperm that carries either male or female is the one that determines the sex of the fetus, not the ovum. In fact, if you have time, I can give you full explanation. The hadith is fully in conformity with, or the science is in conformity, I should say, with that hadith mentioned 1400 years ago. So there is no question of that. If I still have a minute, let me comment on
yes, you do.
one thing, if I may. The question of the claims of Jesus of being God, there is no single place where he put it in clear terms as the Quran makes it always. 68 times in the Bible, Jesus was called Son of God. And Son of God was used by Hebrew people to mean someone close to God. David was Son of God. Many people were referred to as sons of God. However, not once in the New Testament was Jesus referred to as God the Son, which is a big difference in theology. Secondly, the question of worshipping, that they worshipped him. We know that the word worship actually means intense love. In fact, you refer to the mayor as your worshipful. It doesn't mean that he is divine in that sense. But what is more logical, that Jesus himself worshipped God. He fell on his face and worshipped God. He prayed to God himself. He besieged God in Gethsemane when he was asking God to remove that from him. This is the action of someone who is dependent on God, who's subordinate to God, and as he many times said, he's only the servant who's doing the will of his fathers. The other thing that was raised earlier about who ran the world in the 3 days when Jesus, if we assume he were God, was not only asleep, but dead. In fact, the Quran answered that in clear terms in the 2nd chapter. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum la ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm. Allah is the ever-living, the ever taking care of the universe. He never is overtaken by slumber or sleep. In fact, it amazes me that in the Hebrew scripture, it says that in the 7th day, God rested from the work he did, which doesn't go with what we have heard earlier. Thank you.
Oh, I see some women students lined up here. This is good. We have a question now for Mr. Rittenhouse. Is it going to be a verbal? It's going to be a written question. Okay. Go ahead, Hassan.
Okay, if the Trinity is the truth and you believe in the accuracy of the Old Testament, why wasn't Moses introduced to this concept?
God's revelation has been progressive, and so there's things in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, that don't have explicit teaching on other topics like, what is life after death like? Are we going to have a body? That doesn't become clear actually until the book of Isaiah. So the Torah was written probably 1400 BC. The book of Isaiah was written 700 years later in 720 or 750 BC. And God, as He continues to give information to the prophets, He reveals more and more information. And so God didn't reveal at that time the triune nature of Himself. He gave some inklings of it. In Genesis 1:26, let us make man in our image. In the Shema, He gave some indications of it. Abraham was born approximately 2166 BC. Moses comes 700 years after Abraham. So you've got all these flow of individuals: Abraham, Adam, Noah, Abraham. All these people. None of these people, God had never revealed to them His personal name. Now, out of deference, if there's any of my Jewish friends here, I will not say the Hebrew word for the personal name of God, because Jews don't speak that word. They actually speak a substituted word, Adonai. So I'll use that, but if you're Jewish, you know what I'm talking about. Christians know it as the Tetragrammaton. That's not the word, but it's the 4 letters. So not until Exodus chapter 6 with Moses and at the burning bush in chapter 3 verse 14 does God actually reveal His personal name to the Jewish people and to humanity. So here's the principle. Revelation is progressive. So God did not reveal everything about Himself and about the future right at the point that He talked with Moses, or that Moses wrote the first 5 books. It was for future revelation about Himself, and so in the New Testament He gave further revelation. That is actually similar in principle what Muslims believe with the Quran, that God gave additional revelation. So that principle is the same idea, that revelation is progressive, and God in His wisdom has the prerogative of revealing more information as time goes on. So the New Testament gives us a more full-orbed view of not only the nature of God, but it also gives us things like, what is the afterlife like? What will we as individuals be like? Will we be able to sustain personal identity and existence after we die? And the New Testament answers those questions and gives us much more information. Progressive revelation.